How do the Olympics go?
I don't even know where you were starting.
I was like, that's not the Olympic theme. Olympics. Hi, you've reached the Signal Watch. Movies, television, comics, and more. I'm your host, Ryan Steens. Join me and our cadre of co-contributors as we examine cultural artifacts of the 20th century, boldly explore the 21st, and try to put it all in perspective. Stay tuned. We're gonna try to make this work.
Hilarity! This is it, sports fans, participants even. Television's greatest array of stars, Laugh Olympics, presents the round-the-world triple team competition between the Yogi Yahooies, the Scooby-Doobies, and the really Rottens. The players are on the field, in the stadium even, so let's get on with it! Laugh Olympics!
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Signal Watch. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Steens, and with me today is my lovely co-host,
Jamie Steens.
And we are just getting over Olympics fever. Last weekend was the closing ceremony on Beijing 2022. And, a lot happened since the first podcast.
Indeed.
And we actually had some people listen to it, so I feel like maybe we owe a part B to the world on this. So, let's not beat around the bush. I mean, we're really probably here to talk about figure skating and the absolute shit show that it became.
The ladies' event was an absolute shit show, and it was like unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Part of me that I've mostly retired was delighted by how it completely went off the rails. I
didn't feel that.
No, you're a good person, and so...
Well, yeah, because it involves
15
teenage girls.
Yeah. Before we get into all that, because it's kind of depressing, I want to get a little bit into kind of what the end results were. The U.S. ended up with, it says here, 25 medals. We were the fourth after Norway, which, shocker, the Norwegians who came up with most of these sports and live in ice 24/7.
Who ski to work.
Yeah.
And luge to school.
Can come up with sports, which they will win.
Probably going to piss off some Norwegians.
You know what? The Norwegians can fucking come for me.
All right. The gauntlet has been thrown.
The line has been drawn. I am taking the Norwegians on. And they had 37 medals. That's 12 more than us. They had 16 golds, 8 silver, 13 bronze. That's a lot for a country that's roughly the size of Houston. Population-wise.
Right.
Yeah. Germany came in second with 27 total medals.
Germany basically took most of the bobsled, I think. It was bobsled that they cleaned house in.
They did very well in the bobsled.
Yeah.
The next one was China, who came in... Wait, I'm doing the numbers wrong here.
Well, okay. There's total medals and then there's number of golds. So it depends on how it's ordered.
They're listed as the third, but it says they have 15 medals total. Of 9 gold, 4 silver, 2.
Okay, well then they're doing it by golds, I think.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
That's what they've done. Okay, so yeah, they have, China, and you have to keep in mind, some of those were from someone from California.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah,
I think she medaled 3 times.
Eileen Gu is a U.S. citizen, but her mother is Chinese, I believe.
Yeah.
She speaks fluent Mandarin.
Uh-huh.
And she decided to compete for China.
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw any shade at her because I don't know her story, and that's just not nice. She made her choice, so...
Yeah, I literally don't care. I think it's against the spirit of the Olympics to care.
Yes.
I've realized the ROC are steroided up friends from across the sea who can't leave well enough alone ever in anything. Actually came in second with 32 medals, with 6 gold. Maybe one of those is contested, maybe it's not. I don't know where we're at these days. 12 silver and 14 bronze, and that's all I'm going to read to you from the internet. You have the internet. It's a great thing. Look into it. You can find all kinds of useful information there. So, yeah, in addition to figure skating, we had the monobob.
Oh, the monobob was cool. So, the monobob came about because the women felt that they should have more than one bobsled event to be able to compete in. Currently, or before this Olympics, they were only allowed to compete in the 2-woman bobsled, 2-person bobsled. So they came up with the monobob, which is basically just a driver, and it's a smaller sled, and it's really awesome. It's harder to drive.
It looks like something someone's going to die doing.
Yeah, I mean,
so do all the bobsleds.
Yeah, they said that the 4-man bobsled is actually it's like they compared it to that driving an SUV, and the monobob to driving a sports car, just because it's so much lighter and so much more responsive.
Yeah.
So you flick a toe and that thing goes flying the other direction.
And we got silver in the monobob?
No, we got gold and silver. So,
right. Sorry.
Dang it! I can't remember the name of the woman who won the gold medal, which is awful. But she used to compete for Canada, and she got U.S. citizenship. I guess her fiance was American. Yeah. She was unhappy with her coaches, so after the last Olympics, she moved to the U.S. and got her citizenship last year. Competed for the U.S. and I can't remember her name.
Keely?
Something like that. I'm sorry. I don't have anything in front of me.
No, we took no notes. There's no notes here.
And now I can't remember. Who's the other woman?
Elena?
It's not. We are terrible.
Yeah. James Taylor?
Oh my God. I knew it like yesterday.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won gold and silver in this event.
Yes. And that was a story because, of course, the one the second one, whose name we can't remember, had been quarantined for COVID. And
she missed the she was supposed to carry the flag.
Yeah.
In the opening ceremonies.
At the closing ceremony.
She carried it in the closing ceremonies.
Yeah.
But, she missed the opening ceremony. She just stayed in her room. She, they showed her, like, lifting weights and stuff in her room.
She's just like you.
Yeah. Just like me. But then she got cleared and she was able to compete because the event was close to the end of the Olympics.
Yeah. That reminds me, Vincent Joe did not ever get to skate competitively.
That's not true. He skated in the team event. And they won, for now, the silver medal. Mm-hmm. So he does have a medal. Yeah. He was unable to compete in the individual event, but he got cleared as the Olympics were ending, and he got invited to skate in the gala.
The gala. If you've never seen the gala, it's a little bit weird. It'd be like if at the end of the Olympics they were like to the basketball teams, like, everybody bring balls and we're going to just do like...
It's like a talent show.
Yeah, we're going to do like a slam dunk competition.
Yeah, it'd be like gorillas slam dunking.
Jamie's referring to the Phoenix Suns gorillas, not that they would actually bring gorillas to the Olympics.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing. Definitely check it out. I stay up later than Jamie. I ended up watching quite a bit of downhill skiing, which I continue in the same way I enjoy watching track and field during the summer games. I enjoy downhill. and there was some drama there with Michaela Schifrin. Of course, had her issues, and I felt a little bad because they kept putting cameras over her. I don't even really know how to address it on the podcast because I think everything that happened with her could have been environmental and definitely emotional. And I think once it was in her head that she was having issues,
it's really hard to get out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the worst possible time for that to creep up on an athlete, getting the yips essentially. So,
every single skiing event, snowboarding, everything, that snow was not real. I mean,
you might want to talk about that a little bit.
Okay. So they are in a severe drought in that area of China. And they brought in snowmakers. So just a huge amount of these huge ice machines. And I think it's essentially like making big snow cones and dumping it on the mountain.
Yeah, which is not the same consistency.
It's not. Snow. It's really slick. It's really hard. So you're skiing, doing snowboarding, all of these different events on a different surface than you're used to.
Right. And there were some things that made me wonder. The Olympics is a little bit tough. Any sport you watch where the weather is a factor and it is an uneven factor. It's not like when you watch football and both teams are playing in the rain. What can occur, I watched this a bit in the half pipe with the skiing and a bit with the snowboarding, was that the weather was changing as the event was going on. So the people at the beginning had this huge advantage, and the people at the end were like, well, every time I try and go more than 6 feet up, I'm getting blown over.
Yeah, you could see they put up these huge tarps on one side of the half pipe, and then the wind started blowing from the other direction.
Right. There was just no winning.
No.
You are dealing with the elements. They didn't end up dealing with that very much. I didn't hear of many delays for ski jump. That seemed to go fine, which doesn't really rely on...
I honestly don't remember watching very much of the ski jumping.
It's because I stay up later than you.
Well, it's not something that they highlight on the NBC primetime because the Americans aren't very good at ski jumping.
They're very bad at it.
Yeah.
And actually, now that you mention it, I watched it on the Olympics channel.
Oh. Okay.
But yeah, it was pretty exciting. And I think I talked about it in the first podcast. It's one of the things I do enjoy watching.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It looks so scary.
Yeah, it was a real kick. But I think we should go ahead. I think people are probably here to hear about kind of what's going on with ice skating, and not to push it off even further. But I want to talk about two things before that are somewhat related. At some point, we realized as the Olympics were ending that NBC had a show on Peacock called Olympic Ice. Yes,
and every single night it was on.
Right.
For 45 minutes.
And it was really fun. We've gone back and watched a bunch of episodes.
I'm rewatching the whole thing, even though the Olympics are done. So it's basically, I can't remember who the host is. His
name's John Eisman or Matt Eisman.
Did you say he's a comedian or something?
He hosts some show on the Family Channel called, I've seen it. It's called Home and Hearth. It's what they show when they're not showing Christmas movies, in the middle of the day.
Okay, so he's just kind of generic host, but he's, he's entertaining.
Yeah, he's a working guy.
Johnny Mosley, who I think is a downhill skier.
He was some sort of extreme sports guy.
Okay, but I think he's a medalist of some sort. And
he talks like this, bro.
He does. Then they've got not only Ashley Wagner, who is Olympic bronze medalist in the team event.
And a force of nature.
She's just a character. Will not shy away from throwing shade. She's all over Twitter. She's just a real fun person to have on. And then they've got the two of the greats, Scott Hamilton and Brian Boitano. Yeah. Sometimes Brian is in studio. Sometimes he's over Zoom. And they have Scott Hamilton in Nashville, so he's over in the corner in his little box. And sometimes they send them, Ashley or Brian, to the ice rink that is apparently downstairs.
Yeah, they're in Stamford. All the NBC stuff happened in Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah. And so they'll go down and demonstrate, some techniques. And I've learned so much just watching this show, and it's so entertaining.
So I said I was going to talk about two things. That was kind of the first one, and it's still streaming on Peacock. If that's your thing, go look for it. But I was reading an article. They released the almost said Pew numbers, Nielsen ratings for the Olympics, and they were abysmal.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing, and this is something that I know NBC kind of is shrugging off their low TV viewing numbers, because their online numbers, which I think probably included Peacock, were through the roof. Billions of hours of Olympics were watched by people. They pay $1.3 billion every Olympics, every 2 years, to have the rights, which the IOC is a racket. Never forget that as we continue on in our conversation here. But, there's these new ways they've been doing the Olympics. I remember years ago during the Summer Games, they tried to do them as a pay-per-view thing. And then NBC would only show 2 hours of Olympics at night in the summer. And it was miserable. It was the worst experience I ever had watching the Olympics. This time I really felt like it was a little hard to navigate because there was so much.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything, because we pay for Peacock, but it's only $5 a month.
Yeah.
You could get everything live.
Right.
And I mean, I learned the hard way, you have to actually try to record something if it's going live if you want to save it, because it won't be there the next day otherwise, or add it to your library. Sorry.
And it was confusing too, because they had the first feed that was live that had no voiceover. It was the raw,
right? It is
the raw feed. So you'd be watching Zambonis driving around.
Yeah, because there's no commercials. There's nothing. It's just And sometimes it would just go to what's the emergency screen? It's not emergency screen, but the
test pattern.
Test pattern. Yeah.
And then they'd also show it on Peacock with commentary. So you'd be like, well, I want to watch downhill skiing. Is it on here? Is it on there? And
USA had some stuff, but that was usually tape delay.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like at some point I needed a chart of how is this working that was not available to me. And the HBO Max menu or any of these, they're really limited in what you can do or display. And so that was a little problematic. I think people were also watching a bit on other platforms, NBC was pushing stuff to YouTube and things like that. And so anyway, it was kind of all over the place as far as where were people watching it, how were people watching it, and I think NBC can learn a lot from this. And of course you had the Super Bowl that occurred that Sunday night, right in the middle of the Olympics.
That was super weird. Did you say that the Super Bowl got pushed back this year?
My understanding is, the Super Bowl occurred later. And if you go back and look, the Super Bowl usually occurs in the first weekend in February.
Okay. I'm trying to do the math and try to see if they just got bulldozed by this and weren't expecting to have to show both at the same time.
I mean, they would have bought the rights before they pivoted everything for COVID. So yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so it was really weird because there was all this cross promotion going on, which if there was ever a sports audience that are at two different ends of the spectrum, it's football and ice dancing, which is what they showed after the Super Bowl, which is what they had to promote during the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Don't forget to stick around for Madison Chalk. It was a little weird, but I don't think any weirder than the usual dumb new sitcoms they usually try and roll out.
Yeah, it's all.
We're going to run up the numbers because you're drunk and you're not going to change the channel anyway.
Yeah.
So I kind of accidentally watched the Super Bowl this year.
We really did.
I turned it on partway through the first half, and I couldn't tell you when in the first half I turned it on. But Jamie, I looked up, and there was like 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I was like, whoa, when did this happen? And she's like, well, you turned it on like way into the game. I was like, oh, right. Because in my head, we were in like the third quarter still at that point. Anyway, but yeah, they had to go to ice dancing afterwards. So.
I mean, a lot of this, I think, is just a natural progression of how people watch TV. I mean, when we were kids, the Olympics were a big deal, partially because it was the biggest thing that was on at night and on weekends during that time of year. Most TV shows went on hiatus during that time.
Well, some still did. We watched Superman and Lois on the CW.
Yeah, that's right.
And it went on hiatus during the Olympics. Because it's a show that only gets like 1 million views or something like that at best on a really good week.
Right. But what I'm saying is like streaming is there now all the time.
Yeah.
So people have a lot of other options.
We recently moved to YouTube TV off of like regular cable, but we still have the cable channels on YouTube TV, and we just aren't. I'm not sure how long we're going to hang on to it in the format we've currently got it, because there's nothing on cable anymore.
Ever.
It's
like Marvel reruns.
Yeah,
which we have.
Which you have on Disney Plus, right? And
without commercials.
Yeah, unless you want to watch like Treehouse Masters or something like that, there's just nothing on.
I mean, we watch our local news basically, and I think we can get that somewhere else.
Yeah, we can. But anyway, all that to be said, let's talk about
the scandal.
The scandal.
So
Dateline.
We started talking about this last week, but I didn't want to say too much because nothing had been decided. So I didn't want to do a bunch of speculation. Now we know what happened. So, I can't remember. Camilla, I can't remember her last name. The front runner of the Russian team for the women ice skaters. After the team competition, after their team had won gold, her blood sample from December 25th finally came back on February 8th from Switzerland.
Jamie, was it full of Christmas cheer?
It was full of something. It was full of illegal substances.
Yeah.
It was I believe a heart medication that was not approved because it supposedly, if you take it, you can practice a lot longer. Mm-hmm. Which obviously is a benefit if you're an ice skater. The loophole that they managed to get around on, which should not have happened, was that she was a minor. She was 15 years old. If she had been 16 years old, this wouldn't have been a problem.
In that she would have been
booted out.
Yeah.
So, I can't remember if it was the Olympic Committee that made this decision or if it was an outside party.
It was some sort of outside sports legal authority.
They came back the day before she was set to compete and said, she's good to go.
Yeah.
And they let her compete.
Yeah.
Their reasoning being that she is a minor and we don't want this to have a negative influence on her. And I'm unclear if they felt it would have a negative influence on her emotional state or her professional career. That all is a bit murky to me in their wording. But point being, they let her skate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of this bullshit, she's a minor.
Yeah. Vlad sent a suitcase full of cash to a bunch of people.
They really need to do some rejiggering once this is all over, because if you were old enough to compete in the Olympics, you were old enough to play by the rules.
Yeah. That was bad enough. She did not end up winning the gold in the women's competition.
Yeah, so when we talk about a shit show, it was complete chaos from the time that thing ended for about 20 minutes afterwards. And NBC just kept letting it roll Because this had all been taped previously to the evenings. I wasn't even going to watch because she, I didn't want to see her win and I didn't want to see him not have a medal ceremony. But then I heard what happened and then I wanted to watch. So they skate in order, in reverse order, going from this short program to the long program. So she was set to skate last because she was in first place. And she had what was called a splat fest. She fell on her butt at least twice and had a number of shaky jumps. Yeah. Now, Ryan and I kind of went back and forth on was she instructed to throw it. After watching her, I don't think that a 15-year-old can do something like that on purpose. You could just see on her face that she was just not in the right headspace.
Yeah, she got the yips.
Yeah. And then afterwards, she comes off the ice and her coach, who is, I think, the real culprit in all this, and we'll talk about her later, basically starts yelling at her.
Yeah.
The girl okay, so we're going to talk about all three of the Russian ladies because they were the top three going in. The girl who won the silver medal came off of the ice after all was said and done and started having a meltdown. She was just crying and yelling because she did not win the gold medal. She said, "Everyone has a gold medal but me. I hate all of this. I'm never skating again. I'm not going back out there." Basically just having a fit. This girl is 17 years old, by the way.
the first teenager to ever have an emotional reaction
right,
to something.
Exactly. I'm almost done. Stick with me. The girl who won the gold medal, also a 17-year-old, was, because of all of the coaches and all of the handlers were handling the other two, was left in the winner's box by herself, holding a little stuffed animal, looking sad for 15 minutes. And then the last woman, the Japanese woman who won the bronze medal, is over there just bawling her eyes out because she's so happy that she won. So there is just a huge spectrum of emotion going on. It was so bizarre. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I find it ironic, of course, that someone's over there losing their mind because they got a silver medal at the Olympics. And someone else is over there weeping for joy that they got a bronze. And the whole thing, the Russian coaches, full stop, the Russian coaches.
I watched a 2-hour documentary on what's happening in figure skating, and mostly centered around what's happening with Russian coaches right now.
Yeah, on the surface of what you can kind of glean, clearly there's some level of, beyond teens who happen to enjoy a sport getting a lot of support that they wouldn't get the same way in the U.S. that they get in Russia, where we'll take you from your family and turn you into an Olympic, gold medal winner. All the things that they do to support athletes in Russia, it just looks very different as far as how they manage it. We've all known this since the 80s and 70s, whatever. It's become part of the, propaganda of the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, and Russia. The past, has just never let go of its old, stuff. They've been marching now into the Olympics under the flag of the Russian Olympic Committee because Russia was kicked out of the Olympics.
In 2014, there was a doping scandal.
Yeah, absolutely massive. They never should have let anybody from Russia do anything.
And they sure learned their lesson.
Right. So, and you can be, skeptical and you can say, oh, everybody does it. It's just, whether or not you get caught. But most everybody else does not get caught. Like the Russians just routinely do because they love to cheat. They love to cheat.
And they can get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at that kind of stuff we're seeing going on in the Ukraine right now, which I'm a little fired up about, you can kind of see the way they think of diplomacy and the way they think of everybody else as being a loser that they can push around. And the thing is, as long as they keep clearly throwing money at the IOC, clearly throwing money at all the folks, all the up and down the line, they're going to get away with it. And sport relies on being able to say that the sport is actually legitimate. Like, otherwise, there's a reason boxing is not what it was in the United States, because boxing has become clearly everything's thrown. It's basically WWF. I'm going to make all the boxing heads lose their minds on this, but you guys know that's true. That there's huge problems with them, corruption in boxing. And at some point, something that's basically a performance anyway, that you're just ranking subjectively to some extent, they try and do their best. But even at that, watching Olympic ice, they're talking about where the judges were not actually ranking things correctly.
Yeah, the Russian girls have a way of doing their quads where they pre-rotate their jumps, which means their body is doing a half turn before they even get off the ground, which incidentally is horrible for your back.
Yeah. And
she didn't win the gold medal last time. She was supposed to win the gold medal last time. She can't skate anymore. She's 19 years old and her back is ruined.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another point. So something needs to be done to protect these girls. They are brought in from a very young age. Like Ryan said, they're separated from their families. The coach came out in an interview and basically said that she prefers coaching girls because, and I'm using the word girls because that's what they are when she gets them. They're not women at that age. They're 6, 7, 8 years old. Basically said that they listen more than boys, and that's not her exact wording, but the way she said it basically meant they're easier to manipulate. They have to do these crazy weigh-ins. I mean, all this is really terrible for their health. They're not allowed to gain more than 20 grams, which is nothing, in between weigh-ins, which basically means that they sometimes go days without water. Who knows what they're eating? And I'm not saying that, eating disorders are not, throughout all over the world in ice skating, ballet, everything, that obviously happens. But this is under the watchful eye of a coach. She's encouraging this.
Well, she's making it happen.
She's making it happen.
Anymore.
Yeah. And maybe 3 of however many little girls that she has will ever make it to win a medal and make money off of it.
Yeah, I mean, I have my feelings about the way Americans do it, where it's like, are you upper middle class to very upper class? Great, we have a sport for you that only you can really participate in, or you can just bankrupt yourself.
Yeah. Which
is Olympic figure skating. You're talking tens of thousands a year, and it is what it is. I mean, we can get into how people become a quarterback, even in high school these days, and how much money is thrown at that by overly eager dads. But you would think it after the collapse of the Soviet Union and all of that, things would have fallen apart. I grew up, in the same neighborhood as Crowley's gym. And, you knew there were these girls who were being brought in and all the things that were, Crowley did. But those kids ended up living with relatives. Some of them, I think, lived with Crowley, but they were still basically in society to some extent. Someone was kind of watching out for them, but not enough, obviously, because we just went through the whole molestation scandal out of Michigan State. So I don't know exactly. I mean, kids are, especially when you get into something like a sport, highly manipulable.
Yeah.
I don't know what the word is, but you so want to be a part of the team. You so want to succeed. Someone's telling you this is the way you do it. That you can apparently get away with molesting hundreds and hundreds of girls. If you're the best quote unquote sports doctor, that you can apparently, charge tens of thousands for coaching and send your kids off across the country as people do here. Or you can do kind of what people do, in Russia and some other countries, to where you basically just create sports camps where kids are going to live. And when we're done with you at age 17, when you can no longer do 4 spins in the air, that's not a professional skill.
No, and our retired skaters, some of them go on to do professional skating, and they do tours and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. These girls can't do that by the time they're done.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2 of them can.
Yeah.
But they have so many back problems. And also, like, the malnourishment. Also, like, there has to be some delayed puberty going on. I mean, when I found out that the other 2 Russian women were 17, my jaw dropped. They're so skinny. I mean, maybe Russians are just built differently than we are, but their pairs team, I mean, she wasn't.
Well, I mean, you're allowed to go out there and Google the, Bolshoi ballet or anything, and, the culture around that. But
and I know if you are, like, in athletics, if you do, heavy ballet dance, that sort of thing, you can have delayed puberty. It does happen. Just because
the lengths people are willing to go to for sport.
Yeah.
I think the IOC has just kind of, shrugged and said, we're just getting our TV money for, and it happened to all of the bad habits kind of landed in their lap in one shit show. And my biggest concern is in 4 years, we're right back and nothing's changed. Because the only people who can change it are the people who are currently benefiting from the existing system. And they're their own governing body. It's not like the Olympics are a government, and they can kind of do whatever they want, kind of like FIFA or the NFL or anybody else. I mean, they're if they don't feel like enforcing something, and then it really becomes a question of, will you look away as a fan? Is this enough to make you stop giving them money by watching? Because it's free to you in a lot of ways, right? I mean, we paid our $5 for a month of Peacock, but they're making their money off the advertising. So I think it's a massive problem of corruption, and it's going to take, like, the U.S. basically saying, we're not going to show up. I can't really figure out what would happen, and the U.S. is never going to say
we're not
going to show up.
Yeah, it won't happen.
But yeah, so consequently, no medal ceremony for the group, for the team event?
For the team event, because she placed. And they said if she had won a medal in the individual, there would also have been no medal ceremony.
Which is bullshit.
It's absolute bullshit. They don't want to have to try to retrieve medals if, things get switched over, is my guess. I don't know the reasoning.
Mint another medal. They've got the money, for God's sakes.
Yeah. But one of the things that pisses me off the most is their reasoning for letting her compete is they didn't want to do damage to her. What about the emotional damage this has done every single other skater in that event? They're now questioning the legitimacy of the entire competition.
Yeah. Well, and again, the only way to flex that, if you really care, is to stop participating. And there's only one path to go right now in figure skating. So I mean, I frankly don't know. I think everyone's got a lot of tough talk right now, but when they actually sit down at the table and someone says, "I don't feel like changing," I don't know what happens.
I mean, they did completely rehaul the scoring system.
And they're talking about redoing it again.
They redid the age limit for gymnastics after China. It was Beijing the last time, the Summer Olympics, when they brought in a lot of 12-year-old girls and forged their IDs. But they were clearly 12. So maybe something will happen because, there's precedent for them changing things. But I don't know. They've been bent over backwards to make Russia happy. It's just so...
Yeah, well... Yeah, I mean, I think Vlad keeps showing up with a suitcase full of cash.
Oh, I mean, he was there at the opening ceremony, sitting right next to the Chinese president.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to quit watching the Olympics.
I don't either.
But at the same time, I'm like, if it's not a real thing and you guys are just not going to play by the rules, then who cares? This isn't great. You can go pat yourselves on the back in Russia, which, by the way, the story in Pravda, was, West tries to shame our hero.
Oh, she went home. Camilla went home before the closing ceremonies, and they showed her reception at the airport, and she was just being basically thrown flowers.
Yeah, she was martyred.
Yeah.
But you'll never hear from her again.
Nope.
So, anyway, yeah, it's a weird thing. There's a lot of happy stories that come out of the Olympics. I got to watch Shaun White kind of do his final thing.
That was really bittersweet. He did make it to the finals. He ended up coming in 4th place, but, it was really sweet. When he came down from his final run, all of the snowboarders had stayed, back and were all there to just basically high five him, to applaud him, just basically to celebrate him. Because a lot of them grew up idolizing him.
Right.
Got into the sport because of him.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they interviewed him afterwards, and I teared up because he was tearing up, and then of course they show him his family on Zoom, but yeah, it was quite a way to go out. I mean, I would never say, oh, he shouldn't have come back for one more, because he clearly had a good time. Mm-hmm. He did really well. Yeah, he's 35 years old.
Yeah, it was funny in an interview. He was like, "Yeah, I tell my friends oh, my back's hurt." And like, oh, what happened? And he's like, I'm 35. My back's hurting. So, I mean, you go out there and do incredible stuff every day. Eventually, it's going to have some wear and tear. So, but yeah, I mean, and there were other exciting stories, and there were some Chinese athletes who managed to do very well, like the ice dancers.
No, the pairs skaters.
Pair skaters.
Yeah, they won the gold.
And there was one of the downhill ski jump guys was from China, and it was a little bit of a surprise that he won. So everyone was losing their minds on the hill. So you still have a lot of fun stuff, and that's what would keep me coming back. Right. There's specific events that I would probably say, I need to hear how they fixed this before I'm willing to give it another go. But yeah, it's another Olympics come and gone.
Yeah, the closing ceremonies were a little lackluster, like the opening ceremonies.
Super dumb. But we watched them, as we always do.
We had them on. I wouldn't say we sat and watched them.
No, it's not good TV. I don't know what... I mean, sometimes they make it better TV than other times. This time... they try to do a thing of we're going to do augmented reality, and so, but then the announcers, which were Terry, Johnny, and Tara, were like, now none of this is actually happening. They kept saying, it's like, we know you've been saying that every 30 seconds that what we're looking at is not really there. Also, if it were there, it'd be magic. We know it's not really there. But yeah, it was basically a bunch of disorganized kids running around.
Lots of children.
Yeah.
So many children.
You can't criticize us if we show cute kids.
Yeah, exactly. They had some cool fireworks.
Yeah, but I take that for granted at the end of the fireworks, at the end of the Olympics.
I'm 46 years old, and I am still impressed when someone can write something with a firework.
Yeah, well, I still like a good balloon at age 46. So show me a good balloon with some helium in it, and woo! But yeah.
I know what you're getting for your birthday.
Oh, man, I love balloons. But yeah, we'll be back for the Summer Olympics, and we're going to keep trying to do some Signal Watch sports. I don't know what we'll cover next.
Not this year. That's going to be 2024.
That'll be 2024, yeah. So we have a little bit of time between now and then to do other Signal Watch sports. Hopefully.
I don't even want to say this because I don't want to condemn us. Hopefully we'll be done with this pandemic by then.
Oh, of course. He said hopefully. But yeah, I think my big takeaway really from this Olympics was like the diversity of broadcasting methods that they went through and the potential for doing something. Because I think I was complaining in the last one, like, oh my God, it's so dry and it's so stale. They need to do something to make it more entertaining. And they did. There were a couple of these shows buried on Peacock, like the Kevin Hart thing. Mm-hmm. But they did no promotion.
No, the only reason I knew those existed because I found little clips from them on YouTube. And I was like, where is this show?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to
you
go,
have to
come see Michaela Schifrin.
Well, it's like NBC, you own Peacock.
Yeah.
When you're, broadcasting to the world, just advertise this other thing that you own.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Not the sport that people don't participate in or necessarily watch the other 4 years of their life.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people aren't going to tune in for downhill, but if they like ice skating, they might watch a show about ice skating. Mm-hmm. So, do something about that, NBC. So, anywho, any last thoughts, Jamie?
Follow up to, and I swear to God, this is the last time you'll ever hear about my trip to Calgary, but I talked to my aunt yesterday on the phone. And I
Shout out to Helen.
And I told her that we had talked about our trip to Calgary, visiting them last podcast, and I actually did not remember a couple of things. So I had talked about when we went to the downhill skiing that it got canceled. I thought it was due to bad weather. It was due to heat. It was too hot. I think the snow was melting a little bit. So it was too icy or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's why that was canceled. So interesting. Also. Oh, she also said that we got our tickets because they had Calgary residents were allowed to sign up for lottery, basically. So we didn't know what tickets we were getting when we showed up. We got really, really lucky. Mm-hmm. I mean, including front row seats to one of the events. But yeah, that was really interesting. She also said that one of the last nights they were there, of the Olympics, they just went downtown just to wander around just because it's a neat thing to do. And this car pulls up and says, hey, would you guys like to go to the skating gala? And they said, sure. So they gave them 4 free tickets to the exhibition.
Wow.
So they got to go to the exhibition skate.
Huh.
I had completely forgotten that. So, yeah, that's neat. Perks of being the home city.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for doing this with me, Jamie. I know it was a little bit much to roll out the mic and do a part B, but I sure appreciate you taking the time.
I have watched way too much ice skating and ice skating talk in the past 2 weeks, so maybe this will put a cap on all of that.
Yeah. It's for us, if not for you.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye. That about wraps it up for this edition of The Signal Watch, a production of the League of Melbotus. Thanks for sticking with us. If you enjoyed the podcast,
we invite you to drop on by the Signal Watch blog, where you'll find write-ups of a wide variety of movies and more. We'd love to hear from you, so find us online and let us know what you think. Whether you prefer email, blog comments, or social media, we'll be happy to hear from you. We'll be back soon with more exceedingly high-quality content. So, until next time, God damn it, babies, you've got to be kind.